2024 at 1:30. We are in the Commissioner's Courtroom of the Aransas County Courthouse, and this is for a workshop meeting. Roll call.
Commissioner Commissioner Cheney,
Here.
Commissioner Casterline,
Here.
Commissioner Russo, Commissioner Dupnick,
Here.
Judge Garza.
Here, we've got a full quorum. And item number 4, we're here to discuss the Defense Community Infrastructure Program grant and projects within the county, which might be eligible for funding. And Mike's gonna drive. Thank you.
If I can keep it between the lanes. So the DCIP or Defense Community Infrastructure Program grant, it's not very old. It's only a few years old, but it was our interest in it was born from trying to get the Navy to either pay for or to contribute to pavement repairs at the airport as they come up, because of that's what they affect when they do touch and go landings at our airport. So we've essentially been treated as an auxiliary field for years, but we've never been funded like an actual auxiliary field. So we've done traffic counts in the past to try to make our case to the Navy. I've had conversations at the base level at Sinatra, which is the training wing command of naval aviation. So, but I've had those conversations, and
Can you tell them what Sinatra stands for?
it's Central Naval Aviation Training.
Okay.
Essentially, or air training. And that takes place between Corpus Christi and what is it in Florida? It's Pensacola. And so about half and half, or 60-40, I think, is most of the time in Pensacola. They do a little bit more business, but they depend on these outlying fields like Aransas County Airport to complete their training mission, so that they can keep the naval fleet supplied with aviators at a pace that they need to, that offsets attrition. So without little airports like ours, they're not going to be able to get that done, because you can't do all of the operations that they need to do in Corpus Christi's airspace. It just won't hold it all. It's too much. They have too many planes for that, too many sorties, too many activities. And so of the operations that take place away from Corpus Christi, our airport picks up the lion's share of those. Some of them take place at Goliad, but Goliad's more of the Navy actually owns Goliad Airport now, and that's more of solo training. So in our airspace, they just want to do touch and goes and then go back to Corpus. It's real close. They can go out to the military operating areas offshore, and on their way back in, do touch and goes and then go back to Corpus. And so we're really convenient for them. But again, they've never really paid us to do touch and goes. They never have. They paid us for land lease for a while on a hangar that Harvey blew down. We're not going to rebuild that hangar, so I don't think they have any intention of coming back and leasing any land or hangar space from us. But they at the same time, they aren't paying us for what they're affecting. So what happens is, when we save our tax money for the federal grants, these grants, I'll give you one that you've heard of. It's an airport improvement project grant. We only qualify for those every few years, every 4 or 5 years, and they're big grants, and they'll go after and tackle big projects like pavement or fuel farm or fence or game fence or something like that. But the issue has been that all of these grants, when we have to save our match for them, that's a pretty tall order for an airport that's already trying to stay independent from the general fund. A couple $100,000 is a lot of money for us, but that's a $2 million grant, because these are 10% match locally. So the problem is that we've had to spend so much of these grants toward pavement that other things have been not necessarily neglected, but they've been put on the back burner. And things like the fuel farm or the terminal building needing some repairs or expansion. If we needed another hangar, it would also be eligible under AIP grant if you already have your pavement taken care of. So the ask is that the Navy, we want the Navy to try to come to the table and meet with us on helping take care of the thing that they affect, and let us spend our money on some other things that need to get taken care of. So when I started the process between the Airport Advisory Board, myself, and Airport Advisory Board Vice Chairman Stiles and we reached out to Todd Hunter just to kind of help us navigate the political landscape. And Todd's suggestion was to get Senator Cornyn involved, and then ultimately Michael Cloud's office, Representative Cloud. So we did both of those, and we got a lot of support and feedback from Cloud's office, and that they put a staffer on it in DC. And the comeback from them was that, or from his office, was look into DSIP. DSIP is the way forward for you, because what it does is it's designed specifically to mitigate and offset the impact that military operations have on a community. And even though we're not in Corpus Christi, the military's has an impact here at Aransas County at the airport. So because the airport is having a hard time staying financially independent from the general fund, monies from the general fund are coming back into or having to help support the airport now. It seems to me that now it's become more than just a airport issue that we're looking at. So DSIP, when you really look at some of the things that have been funded by DSIP, I think we qualify for some of those same things in this community, even though we don't have the military installation here. And so I started looking at this not only just as an airport manager, but also as the emergency management coordinator on some opportunities that we may be able to capitalize on with DSIP. And I think I've made a pretty good case for some of those. For example, our emergency operations center is in a very compromised position downtown, being near sea level like it is. It's very likely that we might lose it in a hurricane that gave us any significant storm surge. And so I've long believed that we needed to have some sort of nerve center on the higher elevations within the county, and the airport is the highest elevation in the county. So I think there may be an opportunity for us to fix that issue by expanding the terminal and create a space to have the emergency operations center set up when the time came. In the meantime, the airport might be able to monetize the space. We could rent it. We could use it for community gatherings, trainings. You know, we don't have a lot of large space in the county that's not tied up or costs a lot of money to rent. So it might be an opportunity for us there. Another opportunity might be that we talked about a FEMA dome for Hurricane Harvey. And I know some Commissioner Cheney and Castelline, you were here for Hurricane Harvey. There was a lot of talk about a FEMA dome and being built at the airport. And I just kept saying, it's not going to be easy. Show me how you're going to do that. You know, and I'm willing to listen, but it never got proven up. And ultimately it died because it wasn't a good idea to build a FEMA dome at the airport. It may not be a bad idea to build a hardened structure that can withstand a hurricane or another big hurricane and build it at the airport and build it in the form of a hangar. And then, you know, use it as a hangar every clear blue sky day of the year until we need to set it aside for emergency operations or preparedness, and then be able to pivot on that. And I think that's something that we could do, and DSIP may be a path forward for that as well. So I've had the conversations with the judge. I've asked some folks to look further into to DSIP to see projects that have been funded in other communities with it, and how we might be able to do some of those same things here. And again, because I tend to look at things, and I've used this before, but I tend to be a little bit nearsighted. And I look at airport projects and I look at airport needs, and now as the EMC, I'm looking at emergency needs. There may be something even broader. And again, I hate to go too far down the rabbit hole, but it may be that, you know, we've been looking for opportunities to maybe improve animal care. You know, it could be that the animals are negatively affected by the noise from the airport. We might be able to relocate it if ever that was a desire for the county to do that. And I'm just bringing that up because that's just, there are probably other opportunities that I felt like county staff needed to vet before we move forward. So that's what today's workshop is about. If anybody wanted to kind of come forward that has researched DSIP at all and wants to weigh in on how they think maybe it might improve their department, or if you have suggestions. One other thing is, you know, I need to ask for permission to proceed with DSIP at some point. I'm going to have to ask the commissioners to do that. So the first step after I ask the commissioners for approval to go forward with the ask, and by the way, if I didn't say it already, DSIP is 100% federal for communities below 100,000. So our community would qualify for zero local match, up to $20 million. So that said, but the next step after the commissioners would be to set an appointment with the Navy to meet with the the two-star admiral that's over Sinatra to get buy-in, because no matter how bad we want it or we can justify it, you have to have a letter of endorsement from the Navy base or from the military installation that is sort of sponsoring us through the program. And I feel like that the political avenue that we took early on has given us the opportunity to kind of have the conversation to this point. Whereas before, we weren't really having these conversations because I couldn't get anybody over there to listen. Now it's been directed at them to listen. So I think we would get some buy-in, maybe not everything we're asking for, and maybe not, may not max it out at 20 million, but I think we'll get the things that we need for the airport. And I hope that, I really believe that we can get the things that I'm asking for as the emergency manager, but there may be other opportunities in that the Navy might be willing to sign off on the endorsement letter. So there's that, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I can at this point.
I just want to make one comment, and maybe I have a question. That when you mentioned that the airport has essentially fallen on hard times and the general fund is now helping to support some things where usually you were your own fund and took care of things. That also is a problem that we're experiencing because of our insurance quagmire resulting from Hurricane Harvey. So it's not due to mismanagement of the airport. And then I also noticed that Yvette Utley is here with Lone Star Strategies and Christina, who have worked on some of these projects. And I wondered, are they going to give us some kind of presentation today?
Commissioner, we have actually met we have actually had a couple of meetings and started talking preliminary conversations.
Excuse me,
Yes.
state who you are.
Yvette Utley, I'm the county's grant writer. We have met a couple of times with Judge Garza and with Mr. Greer and started looking at this option to help fund the increase in size that he needs for hangars and all the improvements that are needed. I know the very first kind of roundtable discussion I had with most of the leads here in the county and head departments where we don't have match money. So I don't know how you can help us get grants when we don't have the match funding. So this was a great opportunity and a good sized grant to be able to go after without worrying right now about the match funding. Today, we're coming just to bring in the preliminary discussion of this is what we feel is a good project to support and to go after. What that looks like in the grand scheme of things with presentation as far as design and all the extra details that would probably come in next month. This application, I believe, is due in June. And of course, I would come, for approval as well to apply for this grant funding as I do with any other grant. But yes, there'd be more in-depth presentation and you get more information a little further down. But we felt like this was important to bring to the commissioners court and to the public so that you can start having these open discussions on what this project might look like.
So do you have list of things that qualify for it, other than a hangar? I mean, is there a master list that the program has to give you an idea of what qualifies?
So it's pretty vague as far as what qualifies. If it's impacted by the military, it qualifies. If it's infrastructure and it's impacted by the military, it qualifies. Our airport is certainly infrastructure and qualifies in that way. Drainage at the airport would qualify. For example, we're also on the sewer system. We're on the septic system at the airport. We may qualify to bring sewer all the way down to the airport if we put that in the request that it makes the airport more resilient and we get back open faster after a hurricane or a disaster so the Navy can get back to work. We got them back to work pretty quick after Harvey, but that was a Herculean effort after an event that didn't affect our community quite like, say, one of a high storm surge might have. We might not have gotten open as quick because we might have had our efforts focused in other places. So the Navy has an interest in the airport getting open immediately after a severe storm. And so some of the things that I'm proposing increase our resiliency and offer, I think it offers our airport or offers the Navy that our airport would be open and ready to go sooner.
But do
If
you
we-
have examples? That's what I was asking for, examples of projects that have been funded by this grant, not necessarily here in Aransas County, because
Mhm.
we're just learning about it, but somewhere else.
So
Just,
New
"Hey, we
Orleans?
funded this,
Yeah.
this, and this."
It's the parish that's around New Orleans, I think is called Plaquemines or something to that effect. It's French, but so that county applied for DSIP grants on two different occasions, two different DSIP request asks. Because your ask needs to be, everything in that request needs to kind of dovetail with the next thing in there. And then, so they had one that they felt like didn't match up with the first request. So they put in another one. This was close to $20 million that they asked for altogether. And they built an EOC with it. They built a children's resiliency or center or something like that, something to that effect, where it was I was having a hard time just kind of understanding how the military's, and they have a naval installation, kind of like what we have in Corpus. I couldn't really figure out how and why they qualified for it. And at a certain point, grant writing is creative writing, and you have to be able to show the Navy or in this case, the commander of Sinatra, why what you're wanting to do is going to make our facility available to him quicker and to them quicker after a hurricane. So it almost need a pulse of what that person is going to say. But I think when you consider the fact that we've added the political pressure on our ends, I hesitate to call it pressure. We opened an avenue through our political elected officials that started the discussion. I think this would be obviously the time to go after it. But I was also wanting to try to do something before there's a change in command, because then we have a new a new admiral or a new commander that we have to have the conversation start all over with. Or if, we end up with a new elected official, then we have to start the conversation over. Or we don't have as good a chance, I think, in being able to get something approved.
So one of the projects has been the ENOA in Louisiana, an emergency operations
Yeah.
center. Okay.
And they're real easy to find. DSIP's very transparent. There's a lot of stuff on the public side that you can find out about it. What you don't see is the actual grant request and how it was written. And I'm sure there's volumes that are there that they may share. I don't know. We'd have to ask, but
No, I was just curious for types of projects
Mm.
that have been approved in.
When does our current lease with the Navy or the agreement with them expire?
there's no lease, no agreement. We have a memorandum of understanding that was written in 2015 or 16. And all it said was that the Navy will try to do their training operations between 0800 and 1800 Monday through Friday. And that they would give us consideration on special weekends for
Mike,
Summerfest, for
Do
example.
we have the ability, we had a problem in the past where they were doing all their stuff over Spanish Woods. And I think at that time we asked and they relocated them. I think we have the same thing going on. I don't know where the people live at, but
Reserve.
the reserve,
Reserve.
but well, that happened at Spanish Woods several years ago. And I think the airport manager then requested that they move where they were doing all the trips and stuff.
I'm not familiar with that. I will say that the airport itself is 643 acres.
Mhm.
And it's not big enough to have all of the air operations take place over the airport. It's almost big enough, but
I
it's not
realize
quite.
that we have a lot of water out there that they
Yeah.
can do their stuff over, that it wouldn't be over somebody's house.
Yeah, so there, and I understand that. And so I'm trying to put this in a perspective, but there are military operating areas that are just out past San Jose Island, and they do a lot of their aerial training out there. That's when they simulate air-to-air combat or any kind of aerobatic maneuver, they're going to do that out there. In the traffic pattern here, they're just doing touch and goes. And so our traffic patterns are set up to be as much over the airport as possible. So we have 4 runway approaches. We have 2 landing strips, but each of them is its own runway.
Right.
And so the way it's designed, in aviation, left turns are standard, right turns are non-standard. And the reason is because pilot typically sits on the left-hand side, and when the plane turns, the pilot can look out and see everything out his window. And so when you're going to do something that's non-standard, you have to publish that. If you're not published for anything non-standard, then it's assumed that your airport is standard. And so we're non-standard on 2 of our runways. We do right turns on runway, if you're landing from the north, coming in northbound, landing to the south. We do right turns in that traffic pattern. If you're coming in from the Aransas Bay to land on the runway that goes right up next to Highway 35, we do right patterns there as well. And that keeps as much of the traffic over the airport as possible. The other two runways are standard left and they go over the airport as well. There are a couple of communities that no matter what runway we're on, they're going to get some of that traffic. Spanish Woods only really sees anybody fly directly over their community when the wind is right straight out of the north. And that's less than
Several years
5%.
ago, it was happening on a daily basis. I mean, you weren't the airport manager then or even here, but they were right over the top of the subdivision on a daily basis. And I think we called and say, hey, can you move them somewhere else?
It could have very well been that they were doing standard turns at that time
Yeah.
because that would make sense for runway 14, which is our 95% of the wind comes right down that runway. If they were doing standard there, I could understand how you might, they might see more traffic over Spanish Woods. I get a lot of phone calls when the wind switches out of the north and they almost all come out of Spanish Woods. And it's folks that are like, hey, that plane's too low, or how long are they going to keep doing this? And then, the next day when the wind changes, they don't see them anymore and they don't call back.
The big advantage of this, as I see it, just from hearing what y'all are talking about, is the fact we get a lot more, if we get a runway refurbished or whatever it is that we can do with the money that we get from the DSIP grant, is everything's going to affect all the people, not just military.
That's correct.
But it has to be based on primarily on military, and the rest are.
We need to show them how, we need to show how we're improving the airport to benefit the military.
Right. So it looks to me like that's a win-win, because, we get some pretty nice planes in here that, we need to make sure we have good runways and good lighting and everything. I mean, this is a very active airport for the size that it is.
Extremely active. One thing I was thinking when you said that about it, how we need to benefit the military. There are other things that I think are eligible under DSIP that benefit the military. Some of that is, how does it resolve issues, for example, as to what may have been happening over Spanish Woods years ago. There's money that you need, a lot of money that would have to be spent to go and change a traffic pattern. So that may be, something that they would have been funded in the past by DSIP. But bird attractants are big things that they look to mitigate against with grant dollars, and DSIP certainly has bird attractant mitigation focus, in my opinion. So you could even, and I'm not advocating for any of this. I'm just saying how it might be important for another department head or staff to look at it and say, hey, what if? But if we wanted to relocate the transfer station, I don't know that there's ever need for it, but transfer stations and dumps and things like that attract birds. And so, I think we could very easily make the case that, we want to get the birds out of the picture as well. That benefits the Navy. Of course, we live on a peninsula and we got water on all sides just about. And so we're always going to have birds, but, and I don't know how well that would go over in the ask. I'm just saying that there may be other opportunities that I think we need to listen to or vet out. I don't want to be the only person looking at this and just saying, hey, we just need to do this for the airport for emergency management and move on.
I think,
Bill, you mentioned about the people complain about the airport. From what you were telling me, when we had another conversation, we had everything is within the right decibel limits out of the public property.
Oh, yeah. All of our decibel thresholds occur on the airport property. Yes, sir. And the 65 decibels is the threshold that the FAA gets involved. If you're creating decibels over 65 off the airport, as a result of the airport, then the FAA will get involved in that. So our master plan study from 2015 projected that, it verified that our decibels are all kept on the airport, 65 and above, and that we should remain that way well into the 2030s.
The other thing is, even up because we have received federal grants, we can't really tell the Navy or anybody they can't land there as far as that goes.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, we don't get to pick and choose who gets to use the airport once we're federally funded. In fact, there are instances where we can't charge the military or other federally owned aircraft to say, use our ramp. If we had a ramp fee, we would have to waive that as part of our grant insurance.
This is Misty Kimber. I'm the county clerk. I live in Spanish Woods and I have never had a problem with any of the airplanes going over. The only time we can hear them is if we are in our yard. Not ever have I heard them in my house ever. And I've lived there 16 years now.
It's my opinion that this is too good not to pursue. It seems like, the government seems to be moving more to helping some of the smaller communities than the mega communities. $100,000 people is a fairly large community, but not as large as a lot of the others. And I think they're seeing that, their Navy and I think San Pat over at, Porter Airport is now, are doing a lot of stuff with Coast Guard. They're doing the big, helos out there and they're finding out that they're running out of places that they can do this. And Rockport or Aransas County is the ideal spot as far as what you're going to get for a populated area. And most of our population is not going to be concentrated in the aircraft path now coming in over the water, because a lot of it's going out west and south. So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't look into this further. We're not making any decision today, I don't guess, but my opinion is that we ought to look into this as quickly as we can and make a good decision because, again, nothing from the government is free.
Well, but to add again to that, when you talked about when Commissioner Dubnik said that, we can't discriminate against anybody that's allowed to use an airport. We can't discriminate them for using ours. If we don't take advantage of DCEP, it's not going to change anything. The Navy's still going to operate just like they do. If we do take advantage of DCEP, the operations are not going to increase. Unless somehow the Navy gets bigger, and then maybe it would increase, everybody's burden that's currently impacted by naval training. But I wanted to circle back real quick to the thing about pavement. On this ask, I don't think we need pavement at the moment. DCEP came along at a time that we had already addressed our pavement needs. And I put in my background or my backup information to the commissioners that we've exhausted other federal dollars that were given to airports and communities, from ARPA to CARES and again, to those airport improvement project grants. We've exhausted that on pavement. And I feel like these other projects that were put on the back burner are still eligible under DCEP. But I want everybody to understand my focus would be the next time we need pavement is to make sure that it's available for that no matter what. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the Navy could help offset or fix some of the things that we had to put on the back burner. And I still feel like they're eligible.
And it certainly wouldn't hurt us if the Commandant of Naval Station Corpus Christi signed on to the project.
You have to have that.
It.
Yes, sir. Yeah. You have to absolutely have it. You can't move forward without it.
Yeah.
Is your fuel farm part of this? I know you're trying to look at it, but it would be hard.
And so we don't, the Vice Chair Stiles reminded me that we don't get any money from the Navy for fuel sales. They don't buy any fuel. Coast Guard buys a lot of fuel. They come in for lunch. They'll go eat at Stevie Lou's or Paradise Key or something. We'll give them a car and they go down there and eat. And they've gotten where they do that a lot and they always top off their tanks when they do it. But the Navy will not buy gas. They're too close to Corpus Christi Naval Air Station to do that. The only time we sell gas to the Navy is if they have a plane land because it had an engine failure or some other reason it's bird strike, something like that, where it had to land and be evaluated by mechanical staff and crew before it could take off. They take off with a full bag of fuel. So in that case, we do sell them gas, but that's rare. And if they just bought gas from us, I think it would really kind of offset some of their impact on the airport to the point we may not have to go asking for money if they bought enough.
And that was another thing I was thinking about too, is if we expanded our fuel farm to where we handled maybe some more fuel or even some better grade fuel, JP4 or what, I don't know, well, no JP4, huh? Okay.
Too much gasoline in JP.
But if we can expand that and make it better and where maybe they want to come over here and fly and get gas. I mean,
And I can't
See that.
say where they would ever, I can't speculate to whether or not they would. I don't think they would. I think we're just too close physically to Corpus. I think what they would have interest in is knowing that our airport is ready and available to take every single one of their aircraft in the event that Corpus
Mhm.
had a problem. If they had a runway rehab or something that was going to close the airport, you could bring them all over here
Mhm.
and stage them out of here. And we would have clean, dry fuel to put on the aircraft. We currently have clean and dry fuel. That's not a problem. It's just that our fuel farm is nearing the end of its life. It's in the last few years of its life right now. And we're trying to be proactive to figure out how we're going to fund it
Mhm.
going forward. But it's going to time up with runway repairs
Mhm.
at some point again, and it's going to have to take a back seat. And the FAA could care less whether or not we ever sell another gallon of gas, but our
Right.
runways better be in shape.
Right.
The question isn't if we're gonna go after this, because we are, it's what the project looks like.
Yes.
And we got the fuel farm on there, and the other thing Mike mentioned was, REOC currently is just in the bad location. And since I took office, I've heard nothing but, hey, you need to build another one, or we need a FEMA dome, but I don't like the idea of having a FEMA dome that just sits there.
Well,
So, you're right.
there's
Judge, I
issues
have-
with how
Mike-
FEMA domes are
Mike,
funded.
yeah, and Mike's idea of having a EOC that, during a time of emergency is our EOC, and during non-emergency, we could rent it out, put airplanes in there and generate some income to offset the M&O.
During Harvey, the sheriff's office lost a lot of vehicles, and I know some other county vehicles were destroyed. This hangar you were talking about, it would be built to withstand, it could protect those vehicles during the storm, right?
Yes, sir. And so specifically to the hangar part of the request, that's where the word resiliency keeps coming to mind. I think when Yvette writes this, it should be a resiliency center for the community. But yeah, so you're familiar with the T hangars and how T hangars are constructed. So you have any number of compartments, probably no more than 12, no less than 6. I'm proposing an 8-unit T hangar that you could have one for just the sheriffs to put their cars in prior to a hurricane. And then once they're out, then it becomes a place to stage materials for the recovery. You could have one squared away and write a facility use agreement with Red Cross. And so Red Cross now will have use of this. And then you have one for county government. You could have one for any number of things. I just know that after Hurricane Harvey, our citizens were scattered all over town. They were everywhere looking for whomever they could get assistance from. And FEMA was in a different location, and American Red Cross was in a different location than county government. And we were spread out. This would be one focal point where on the highest ground in the county, where everybody could come to, we could park every car in Aransas County on those runways if we had to, just to get our people in one spot so they could start recovering again, to get their lives going again quicker. And you can take that any direction you want on how many people we might have been able to keep here if we could have answered some questions early on. But this gives you one focal point, one location for the recovery. All of the lumber and the drywall that was donated to the county by the Church of Scientology after Hurricane Harvey, it rotted. It rotted in the hangar because we didn't, first of all, we didn't have a place to put it that was dry. But second of all, we ended up with a bunch of material that the county was then responsible for the Stafford Act on, where we had to go out and show how improved that whoever was going to be the recipient of some of that material hadn't already received some other funding source for what it was they were going to apply it to. So my suggestion would be to write a facility use agreement with Hands of Hope or Samaritan's Purse as well, and give them a place to store it. And that way, the next time somebody donates a lot of material to the county, well, we've got a place to put it, but you're donating it to Samaritan's Purse or Hands of Hope, and then it can go out to the people that need it a lot quicker without rotting.
Mhm.
And a hangar is what you need in that situation. So the hangar, again, my proposal is that it be big enough to handle all the government uses that we could think of for it, to put the vehicles in, or backhoes or fire trucks or the things in that we know that we need to try to take every effort to make sure that it's in a facility that can withstand a storm. You build this thing to 200 miles an hour. That's doable. You can engineer that. But then insulate it and run HVAC in it, put a generator on it, put a men's locker room on one end and a female's locker room on the other end, And then you just leave all that stuff off until you need it. But otherwise, you know, on the blue sky days, it's just a place for me to put airplanes
What about communications infrastructure?
and communications infrastructure as well. So the EOC that I was proposing, I think the judge maybe I misled you a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily set up the EOC operations in the hangar. The hangar would just be concrete floors and metal walls. I would use the added space onto the terminal as part of the terminal expansion to put an EOC facility, another 2,000 square feet, something like that. And that would suffice.
The
And that's where you'd add all your IT infrastructure.
the
Colin, thanks for
EOC,
asking that. I was curious
Yes,
too.
sir. I did put that on my initial proposal. I just didn't stress it as much the last time the judge and I met.
yeah, the EOC did really well in Hurricane Harvey, but you know, half the people had to stand up because there's just no room for all the chairs and stuff that was in there. I mean, it worked well, but it would have been a lot better had it been set up, you know, to handle the amount of people that are involved. I was amazed at how many actual people and department agencies and federal support and stuff that was involved with Hurricane Harvey. I mean, it was just incredible. And,
Yeah, I'd like to point that out as well. The lack of space, I'm Keith Barrett, Harbor Master with the Navigation District. The lack of space for those who stayed and those who tried to help and all the volunteers that came in. We had no place to shower. We had no place to use the restroom. We had no place to do any even small amounts of laundry. It was a tough go for about a month. Having a building that had restrooms and showers, even if it was more sports complex or, you know, locker room oriented, so we could get a lot of people in and basically sustain their needs as they're trying to help put our community back together is a plus. Also, I heard about wanting to build some buildings to help with our revenue within our county. If this money's available, maybe even some Homeland Security, reach out to Homeland Security, see if they need a place to come. We're close to, you know, the southern end of the United States. We're close to the Gulf. There's a lot of aspects that we could probably be more centralized. We have clean airspace. I think our airport right now is a diamond, but just not too many people know that the diamond that we have in the availability of space. So any of these buildings that we could put on and get funding for can't do anything but help the bottom line of the airport. But my thought is, can we get a building large enough to take care of those who are going to stay behind and start really are the first boots on the ground to start recovery and a place to take care of some of their personal needs while they're really making a sacrifice away from their family. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Are there any further questions?
Betty, would you like to address what, from the board's aspect, what they think?
Well, Commissioner Cheney, you said it. It's a win-win.
Okay.
And the fact that you can get 100% funded grant is, you know, unbelievable. And we have another grant that Mike can speak on with BIL that we're working on as well. The board is very supportive. I think Commissioner Dubnik, Commissioner Russo have been in those meetings. And don't you think that they have pretty much supported this?
Pretty much so.
So if that answers your question, but the board, as far as I'm concerned, I can't believe we wouldn't do it.
Yeah. The fact that it's zero match is very attractive.
But we've dealt
I
with,
think we ought to go forward and
Yep.
allow,
I mean, we'll come back to you,
Yeah.
you know, we'll come back with a presentation, but Jackie, do you have something you want to add to this?
right.
Right.
So we.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yep. All
Are you
right.
done or
I just wanted to
move
say-
adjourn?
I wanted to say that, you know, this is a public meeting. The cat is officially out of the bag with DSIP. There are other communities around us that are affected by the Navy. Campbell Porter, you mentioned, that they're getting some Coast Guard traffic. It's still the Navy that's it's their biggest, pavement impactor. We, Aransas County Airport, again, when I talked about, we get the lion's share of the operations that happen away from Navy Corpus. My estimation's always been somewhere between 35,000 and 50,000 operations a year. One touch and go is 2 operations. It's once over the threshold and once on the go. That's how the FAA qualifies it or classifies it. So everybody's using the same metric to measure these things. Well, we have software now that y'all approved me to get last year. We bought a subscription is what we did. And that's called VerTower. Well, VerTower has an antenna on our airport that captures every ADSB, which is a transponder component for the aircraft that says, here I am at this altitude, at this speed, on this location. And it's sending it out. That's how air traffic control is done these days. They use radar still, but they're using ADSB more and more. But planes can also know where each other are with ADSB data. But so it's counting this ADSB data, and it knows that relative to where an aircraft is in our approach into the airport, that aircraft is in either some landing maneuver. And so the T6 Texan that has the ADSB out, it's transmitting ADSB. I'm at this location, and our antenna picks it up. And then when that plane's on the go again, it picks it up again, and it counts it as a second operation. Well, I can already extrapolate that if every month was just like January, which we had low ceilings, low visibilities, we had days where no flying was going on at all, and part of the Navy training squadron is in Roswell, New Mexico right now because of the better weather, we'd be at 25,000 operations for the year. So I think my estimation was probably low.
It's incredible.
So I think when we get into the better flying months and these numbers start ticking back up, I bet you we see something over 50,000 for the year. But I don't think McCampbell could touch that.
No.
But they know about DSIP now officially because of this meeting, and so they could go after it too. And I don't know how many endorsement letters the two-star admiral at Navy Corpus is going to be willing to sign off on. So I think we need to strike again while our iron is hot.
How many airports are available or are subject to get?
Well, I would assume that it's the municipality, or it's the airport sponsor that gets the grant. So it'd be Aransas County for use at the Aransas County Airport. But I think San Patricio County could make a case. The Navy owns Cabanis, they own Waldron, and they own Goliad. So they're putting their dollars in efforts into those airports already. Victoria could make a case that they could go after it, but Victoria has other federal buckets of money that they can go for airports that maybe it's not something that it's worthwhile to them. It wouldn't be a 100% match. They'd have to come up with 30%. That's the other thing is once you're outside of the threshold for 100%, it jumps immediately and drastically to you're on the hook for 30% of the grant. So again, I think that they could make the case. Probably Refugio could make the case. There's some touch and goes that happen there. Nothing again like what happens at our airport. So when I have the discussions with Navy PR or the Navy operations managers about this grant and about how it might go forward, and they know how they use this more than I do. They've unanimously said that we are a perfectly qualified candidate for the grant. It's just what do we ask for? Well, obviously by June mid-June is the deadline this year. It's going to be again around next year, but
You don't want to wait till next.
I don't want to wait till next year. I want to get it. I
No.
want to do
You
it
don't
now.
want to wait till.
There'll be a change of command and somebody new will be elected and everything else. So
Mike, what do we need to do between now and June? Do we need to
I
have
need
like a,
commissioners court support. So we need a resolution that the commissioners want to move forward with this. And then
do we
then
need
we need
engineering?
I'm sorry.
Do we need engineering? Do we need like?
Yeah, so it's got to be
drawings?
shovel ready.
Okay.
That's the other thing too. So we're probably going to have to RFQ for that, or Yvette may have some ideas, but
You don't have to be shovel ready to submit, right?
you have to be shovel ready within a year to submit. Yes, sir. So we have to be able to prove that we can have this job ready to go next year.
Okay.
They maybe, I don't know. I know on BIL they are, but I can't speak to.
What's
DSIP.
VIL?
Bipartisan infrastructure law. That's the other grants that we're using for some other pavement at the airport.
Okay.
You talked about that in one of our previous commissioner court meetings.
Yes, ma'am. So I don't know. Maybe they are, but I don't know enough about it at this time. Yes, ma'am.
Going back to that question, yes, we would need to put out an RFQ because for the sake of the application, yes, it doesn't have to be exactly shovel ready, but very close to, because we need the designs and specs and also a very detailed project budget. I know that's
Right.
something they look for, and the only way we're going to get that is with, professional services. So just to
Okay.
clarify
So I
that.
think, so speaking about timeline, then I think the next thing would be resolution, RFQ, or resolution and a request to do RFQ. And then to decide what is going to be in what's going to be in the ask. I guess that probably should be in the resolution as well. And then following that, we have to set an appointment with and get in front of the Navy.
So do you
Commander.
think you'll bring that the first meeting in April?
Do you think we could?
I mean, I don't know that you're gonna get it on the agenda for next Monday.
Yeah, again, I don't know what we need to put in this yet.
Usually,
What- You could put it in for,
Don't wanna Get it to Tracy. by tomorrow.
yeah,
I just feel that if we do that next Monday, then Mike can set up that initial meeting with the admiral and we can start rolling on this
Yeah.
because everything takes time.
we're talking about a resolution right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, approval to apply for the grant and then the resolution would be the two agenda items.
Visit with Tracy right after we adjourn. That would be my suggestion, because she's working on the agenda now, and I think the deadline's 4 o'clock today. It's 4 o'clock today. But she can work with you.
We'll get it to you right after this. Okay,
All I need is the verbiage.
Okay.
Get it on the agenda.
not a problem. Yes, ma'am.
All
yeah.
right,
We
good.
need to move on this as quick as possible.
All right.
We appreciate all of your positive input. And I'm sure other questions will arise between now and when we submit the grant application. But this is a great start, to have everybody, given us their thoughts on this. I'm excited about this for us.
All right. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Dupnick,
Aye.
Judge Garza.
Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you. Thanks.